Yeah, proves who the real champion is.
Was it ever close?
It was over before it started.
Think there'll be a rematch?
You think they want one?
How about a shot?
That's it.
Very good.
Welcome back to another big fight recap here on BLTV Classic.
Oh, so I'm gonna do this. Well, as soon as I get in the ring, it's a whole different story. I'm the killer then.
On today's video, we venture back to the closing stages of Tyson's development period in the professional ranks. Still young and undefeated, but now taking on more serious heavyweight contenders.
A very rugged Reggie Gross.
Reggie Gross isn't often credited as a serious contender. However, Tyson's legendary trainer, Cus D'Amato, knew there was more than meets the eye, as he was openly opposed to letting his prodigy take on the Baltimore Bruiser. A short, explosive battle that sent the loser spiraling out of control. Let's take a look.
That's it. There you go. Now you got again. Who's the last guy to stop? Time. Very good.
A lot is made of Tyson's work ethic today. To see a teenage boy so dedicated to his craft is inspiring. When he wasn't in the gym perfecting his technique, he was reading boxing books and magazines, watching classic matches from Cus's library, and even attending events and weighing up his potential opponents in the flesh.
Tyson, welcome to Wembley, Mike. Thank you very much, Harry. Just give us...
He was obsessed, but his infatuation with the sport paled in comparison to his trainer and mentor, Cus D'Amato.
An all trainer, and had a head full of incredible knowledge, and had this impact on every fighter that he had ever trained.
Cus's traits as a coach were endless. He was a futurist, a boundary breaker, a professor of the sweet science with the communication skills to convey his philosophy in layman's terms. But his most salient quality, widely overlooked by the hardcore boxing community, was his detailed knowledge of the current landscape in boxing. He knew the strengths and weaknesses of every fighter from New York to Moscow. If a fighter was making waves in a small town in, say, Scotland, he knew about it, and would often send one of his team, usually Jose Torres, across the globe on a scouting mission.
This is all good. Oh, that's a danger sign for Bruno.
In 1985, during Tyson's early rise, Cus took a particular interest in a young, undefeated light heavyweight from the Bronx named Reggie Gross. Gross was trained by Mac Lewis, a prominent figure in the New York boxing scene in the mid-'80s. Lewis helped nurture a talent that remained undefeated as a light heavyweight, and one that conquered two notable contenders at the 200-plus pound limit in Jimmy Clark and Smokin' Burt Cooper. Before Cus D'Amato passed away in late 1985, he left a note to Jose Torres of fighters that he thought Tyson should avoid, at least until his prodigy had gained more experience. At the top of that list was one Reginald Gross. Gross was nimble with decent defensive skills, but that wasn't the reason Cus wanted no part of him. Tyson's trainer was fearful of the fact that Gross had lost to low-caliber fighters like Anthony Witherspoon and Jack Johnson, yet was able to defeat both Jimmy Clark and Smokin' Burt Cooper within a short period of time. Gross was the sort of fighter that rose to the occasion, defied the odds when it mattered most, and in 1986, there wasn't a more motivating challenge than taking on the Brooklyn Bomber, Kid Dynamite.
First round. He is the most exciting heavyweight the world has been waiting for. The undefeated Mike Tyson from Catskill, New York.
Tyson came face-to-face with Gross on June 13, 1986. Tyson had a record of 21-0 with 19 KOs, while Gross had a record of 18-4 with 12 finishes inside the distance. Tyson looked the more dangerous of the two in the opening round, stalking Gross around the ring, trying to get the job done early. With a minute left on the clock, Gross momentarily stunned Mike with an uppercut followed by a right hook. Seeing a glimpse of weakness, Gross just went all guns blazing to try and shock the world. A devastating, leaping left-hand counter put Gross down and out for the count. In total, Gross threw 18 shots in that short barrage, while Tyson, on the other hand, threw just a single blow. One of the greatest knockouts for Mike that truly emphasized how remarkable his technique was.
Were you surprised by that Not at all. At first I thought because he charged out a little with a kind of a sluggish stand, like he's just ready to wing. But I was precarious about it, and I just kept putting the jab in his face, looking forward for him to move forward.
If there is a way to beat Mike Tyson, how do you do it? Don't want to talk about that one, do you? I don't.
357 Magnum.
I'm starting to think.
Good chance.
It wasn't until after the Tyson match that we realized boxing was just a mere side hustle for Gross, pocket money to fuel his crippling cocaine addiction. Coming from the tough streets of Baltimore, the influence of crime and gang culture drew Reggie in at an early age. By teenhood, he'd been in and out of the juvenile system for crimes such as theft and robbery. Gross took up boxing in the late 70s, but his life outside the ring never changed. In fact, things only got worse. A lot worse.
3 weeks ago, police and sheriff's departments in Los Angeles began a major campaign to arrest gang members.
In the fall of 1986, 2 months after the Tyson fight, Gross was arrested and charged with 3 counts of murder that he allegedly carried out while working as a hitman for the infamous Bordley gang. Gross was acquitted in court for lack of evidence. However, another member of the gang, Donnie Andrews, cooperated with the FBI and gave incriminating evidence to put Reggie behind bars for the rest of his life. In 1989, Gross was convicted and sentenced to 3 life sentences, 2 of which were to serve consecutively. He's currently being held at the Terre Haute Correctional Facility in Indiana, where his expected release date is November 1st, 2048. If you'd like to know more about the Reggie Gross story, I'd recommend this video made by Rich the Fight Historian, where he goes into more detail regarding both his personal and professional life. Suppose you just crave more outlandish stories from dysfunctional boxers, then I would recommend checking out this series made by an excellent commentary channel called Boxing Beats and Rhymes. He covers most of boxing's unique crime stories in this classic 5-part miniseries.